A very good evening to you all and welcome to Rwanda Television News with me, Sam Kalisa. Figures from the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda indicate that the country's agricultural sector generated 419 billion Rwandan francs last year, an increase of 5% thanks to more land being cultivated and the land consolidation program. Serge Nore kickstarts tonight's bulletin with this report.
The land consolidation program in the agricultural sector has proved very effective, far more productive than when local farmers go at it alone, because it becomes harder to deal with any challenges that may arise. We did not know which pesticides to use, and every time we planted, the beanstalks would turn yellow and soon after perish. We used no pesticides because we did not know how. Obviously, because at the time I was afraid of losing the entire crop, I decided to add cassavas among the beans just in case. With enough fertilizers, I would not be afraid to grow them separately. Those who use land consolidation in agriculture point out that the benefits are far too numerous to ignore. When it comes to spraying pesticides, we will all do it at once. Abroad, they even use a small aircraft to do it, spraying 100 hectares at once. You obviously cannot rent a plane to spray your 1 hectare as a lone farmer. Supplying them with fertilizers becomes much easier, so does providing them with quality planting seeds, which they can all plant in an organized manner. Training is also easily carried out. But the biggest challenge for farmers is getting fertilizers, and when they come together, that is addressed. Figures from the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda indicate that the country's agricultural sector increased its productivity significantly in 2020. Banana production went up by 12% compared to the previous year, maize and sorghum 7% and 8% for cassavas. Rice production, however, fell by as much as 11%, minus 12% for Irish potatoes, and a fall of 9% for beans. Those figures were reflected in the prices of different foodstuff. In May and June, they were very expensive. Certain types of potatoes cost as much as 500-600 Rwandan francs. Not everybody could even afford to buy potatoes, and we, market vendors, struggled to buy them wholesale. The COVID-19 pandemic only made things worse. Our jobs suffered because of a lack of supplies. The only potatoes that were getting to us were very expensive, and our customers were complaining about the prices. They really spiked. Agricultural experts have noted that land consolidation in farming can help address such issues. We can point out that it is beneficial for the government as well, because providing infrastructure to farmers on consolidated farmland is much easier, such as the construction of roads, storage facilities, and equipment to fight humidity among stored foods. The private sector can also step in and provide different services for the farmers. When it comes to development funds as well, consolidated farmland provides far more produce. So supporting such farmers is logical because of their productivity levels. As of last year, 1.1 million hectares of farmland in the country had been consolidated, as much as 81% of all cultivated land in Rwanda. The agricultural sector generated 419 billion Rwandan francs.
Some people from the poor category of Ubudehe who moved to a better off category say that the culture of relying on others should be stopped, and that those who are capable should be able to strive for self-development. Martina Abera has the story.
Murebgaire Virginie, who lives in Gishari sector in Rwamagana district, is a professional farmer where she earns at least 600,000 a month from agriculture. In 2015, however, the community committee placed Murebgaire and her family in the second category of Ubudehe because of their living conditions. The second category they put me in was because of the bad life I had been living. Yes, I had a house and a plot of land, but I had nothing to support my 6 children, and all of them were young, starting primary. She later on decided to make the land productive. Murebgaire achieved the development that led her to move out of the second category of Ubudehe to go to category B, which is the stage of able Rwandans, and says her goal is to reach A, the rich class. Since 2016, I have been able to grow passion fruits that brought about yield. So now I have a plan to grow and be rich in order to join the A class. This is the same as Mukamugasa Maria, who was also in the second category and is now in the C category of the comparatively able. They say that poverty is a mental state, which means anyone with able hands should work in order to move from one stage to another. Poverty is in the mind, and one always thinks that they will get help from another, which is not right. People should change their mindset and get out of the comfort zone and work so hard because most of them are strong and able. If you want, you can work hard and get yourself out of poverty. It's all up to you. Ubudehe categories are revised after 5 years based on findings from the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda showing how people are out of poverty. Rwamagana District Mayor Rajab Mbonyumuvunyi says there should be a way to see how people left poverty without having to wait for the findings. In different cells of villages, you find that they already have the statistics of how the residents shifted from different Ubudehe categories. But the only thing that matters is that we do research based on the agreements made between the government and the beneficiary. So the right thing is to do an assessment and see if there are times when a citizen changes the way they live during 1 or 2 years. To move people from one Ubudehe category to another, Loda Social Protection Programs Division Manager Justin Gatsinzi says there is a lot to be done. He must be self-sufficient, productive and resourceful, even in times of disasters. The 5th Integrated Household Living Survey showed that VUP-assisted Rwandans came out of poverty at a rate of 15.6%, while the poverty rate was at 16%. Loda says no other information has been released so far, but there is hope that these figures will change after the 6th census. When I look at the efforts that have been made, whether at the grassroots level or the national level, when the 5th EICV first came out, where everyone was asking what to do, when you look at it, you see a change in both agriculture, how the population saves, and that is where changes come from, which gives me hope that the situation will change for the better in these homes. Nevertheless, the COVID-19 pandemic has been identified as one of the main obstacles to poverty alleviation for the citizens. The National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda typically estimates that the family in extreme poverty is spending at least 105,000 Rwandan francs a year, while the average poor is spending at least 159,000 francs a year. Martina Abera, RTV News.
Thank you, Martina, for that report. Church leaders whose churches have been reopened say that they never cease to give COVID-19 prevention guidelines to their Christians because the pandemic still exists. Authorities in the city of Kigali have noted that religious organizations have continued to adhere to COVID-19 prevention measures. Martina continues.
Members of some churches and denominations that have been given a green light to reopen after the COVID-19 pandemic hit Rwanda say they understand that they need to comply to the measures so that they don't contract or spread the virus. They owe this to the teachings they receive in churches and following the guidelines from the health authorities. When I go out to pray today, I have to keep in mind that I'm going to meet a lot of people, so I have to be careful, wear my mask properly, keep enough distance from my neighbor, avoid touching him or anyone else. Even for offerings, we use mobile money. When I get to church, I wash my hands first. We also consider not hugging each other. People praise and worship, sometimes standing up, but they have to remain in their positions and keep their masks on. You know how in Catholic churches they tell you to give the peace of Christ to each other? Normally, we would shake hands, but now we just bow before entering the church. They register us so that we don't have to exceed the maximum limit. And as we all know, those who attend the service must be registered. We have to respect measures in place, and as we're told, if we adhere to the measures, the number of new infections reduces. Yes, we miss each other, but you can't hug a person with this pandemic around. A person who comes to church must be exemplary. Leaders of different churches and denominations say that they have a great responsibility to teach their members to protect their lives and those of their fellow believers, which must be done through cooperation. First, we know the problem concerns every Rwandan, especially those that have responsibilities over others. That helps us and Christians as well to know that they have to be safe, even from where they feed spiritually. When guidelines indicate that churches have to be filled by only 50%, we have to adhere to that. Before saying anything else in church, we remind Christians to adhere to COVID-19 prevention measures. Even before dismissing them, we remind them that COVID-19 is still out there and can ruin the joy of someone from the church. Kigali City Authority is pleased that the church is adhering to the COVID-19 prevention guidelines, but points out elsewhere that still calls for awareness. We observe where many cases come from. So far, churches have no problem. But in different markets and bus parks, there is a big problem. What we're doing is to sensitize people, reminding them that we don't have the vaccine. So what we should do now is to wear our face masks correctly and washing our hands frequently. As of July 19, 2020, some of the qualified churches have resumed meetings and prayers after being closed for 4 months. So far, the health authorities have not indicated any case from churches. However, regulations are being put in place to reduce the number of public gatherings. The last resolutions that were put in place on December 14, 2020, which is expected to be revised earlier this week, churches were allowed to receive as much as 50% of their capacity.
The Minister of Defense of the Central African Republic has urged local residents there to avoid rumors saying their government is committed to ensuring their security. Serge Nore has the story.
A day after government forces in the Central African Republic, together with forces in that country there to assist restore peace, repelled rebels from the town of Damara, located 75 kilometers from Bangui. The country's Minister of Defense has confirmed that the area is now secure. Pertaining to the fighting, I can tell you that our soldiers, supported by foreign forces, have dealt a blow to the enemy. It is a victory for our forces and those from abroad, including Rwandan ones that came to our aid to enable our own soldiers to protect local residents. Damara is now peaceful and secure since yesterday, and residents are going about their daily activities. Damara is secure and life has gone on. The minister also stated that 2 government soldiers and more than 10 rebels were killed in the fighting that also included mercenaries from countries she refrained from mentioning by name. She also called on the people of the Central African Republic to avoid rumors. We are continuing to urge the people of the Central African Republic to remain calm because the government and our allies, including MINUSCA, has a very specific responsibility it must fulfill. MINUSCA is supposed to protect the people of the Central African Republic, and they in turn should be as productive as possible and live their lives as we begin the new year, which God has given them. If we fail as a government, then we have failed our people, and they will see it. But I do not believe that will happen because we are a capable government and our responsibility is to protect the people. With the country struggling to deal with issues on many fronts, officials there are grateful for the help they are getting. Let us take this opportunity to ask MINUSCA that is present here to perform duties that should be carried out by the people of the Central African Republic, because we are still building up our own army. MINUSCA should be a part of this process and not ignore any information they get. They should properly analyze all information and, if possible, prevent or mitigate different threats. With preliminary results from the country's latest elections due to be announced on the 4th of January, security in Bangui and surrounding areas has been tightened.
Watermelon farmers in Bugesera district who bought seed during the harvesting season say that they've waited for the seed to grow, but so far, no results.
These farmers in Bugesera district indicate that having invested a lot of money and energy in this agricultural activity, with the purchase of watermelon seed costing up to 70,000 Rwandan francs, in addition to fertilizers and other products to increase their production, and during the sowing, they were disappointed because nothing grew. We're in confusion because we're losing our investment. To have a land for cultivation, sometimes you have to pay up to 100,000 Rwandan francs, and then after having cultivated, put all the necessary products, and after paying for labor, nothing comes out. We consulted agronomist who commended us products after products, but no results. Some sellers of agricultural inputs also say that they do not understand this situation, as this is the first time they have faced this challenge. Usually, they would buy these inputs and then sell them back to the farmers. Officer in charge of agriculture, livestock and animal resources in Bugesera district, Jean-Claude Sinjenibo, declares that all those who bought the seed from the month of September last year sowed it on an area of 200 hectares. He confirms that the seed is substandard. The seeds imported before were of better quality. Unfortunately, the seed which was imported during the last planting season does not bear fruit. The problem must lie in the process of importing and verifying the seed. The seed mainly comes from Kenya and subsequently distributed to farmers for cultivation. We're going to ask RAB to carry out its investigation to find out the origin of this problem.
The
Rwanda Agriculture Board RAB Authority says it is the first time to hear about the problem and that it will launch its investigation to find out the origin of the problem. However, this is not the first time that such an issue has been raised, as not long ago the same situation has been raised by maize and soybean farmers.
More than 3,500 children since 2012 have been received by families in the foster care program of the National Children Development Agency. Many of the recipients of these children are guardian angels who believe that if a child does not grow up in a family to find love, he or she will not grow up. Martina Avera.
It was in 2006 that a guardian angel, Gahongayire Eugene, picked up a baby boy whom she saw offering construction assistance for a living. I was at work fetching water for constructors. I saw a young girl sleeping. It was 9 a.m. I continued my work. She was still there at 3 p.m. Then I asked the village leader for permission to take her, and he accepted and thanked me. Later, she took in other 2 kids whose parents died in Gatenga sector, Murambi village, in Kichoshiro district. As of now, her family is made up of 6 children, 3 of whom she did not give birth to. Gahongayire Eugene, who runs a small business, confirms that her investment capital is not more than 20,000 francs. Her husband survives on part-time jobs. Caring for these children, she says, requires first and foremost compassion, not owning much. It doesn't require a lot of money. It's what you survive on that helps the person in need. What I do for my own children is what I do for them. The child grew up knowing her mother, but I later changed the identification at school. Mukeshimana Anne is another guardian angel in Gasabo district. She takes care of 2 children, which she confirms that they grow up with love and compassion. I have for long lived with children who were not privileged enough to grow up in their families. I saw effects it had on them. I had an idea of giving 1 or 2 kids a chance to grow up in a family. As more people grow not having families, the more we shall have people without love because they didn't have anyone to love them. Also, these kids already have emotional wounds. Nothing heals that except showing them love. The actions of the guardian angels benefited Emile Habiyaremye. As soon as his wife gave birth to twins, she died. It was a great challenge for Emile, who didn't have enough resources to take care of these kids. She found me at the hospital. I told her that I have no other family to help me. She told me she can help me. She took pictures of the kids and started helping me from there. I'm happy that she really took me from a hard situation. Monique Mukamana, in charge of Tubarere mu Muryango program at the National Child Development Agency, says the program has already been instrumental in raising awareness amongst parents who felt that every abandoned child had to go to an orphanage. The good thing is that now people understand that raising a child from a family is better than taking them to an orphanage. We used to have a big number of children that were left out. You would find that whenever they were picked from Nyarugenge, they would be taken to Kwajisimba. And if they were picked from Rubavu, they would be taken to Nyundo. But now, you find that whoever picks up a child, they are given to the guardian angels. The center condemns the actions of some of the recipients of the children with intentions of using them as a house help, without offering them any other assistance. There are others who don't even care about them as they had agreed to. Sometimes parents come when they have found enough resources for adoption, but later the child develops some bad characters. There are even some parents who show unpleasing characters. When we see that the child might face danger, we take them out of such families. Tubarere mu Muryango program, which was initiated in 2012, started with children living in orphanages who were reinstated in families. Since then, 3,528 children have found foster families. Throughout Rwanda, there are 1,765 guardian angels trained and always ready to help a child who has been abandoned or neglected by those in charge.
On behalf of the entire news and technical team that made it happen, thank you very much for being with us. My name is Sam Kalisa. Please adhere to all the COVID-19 prevention guidelines, and that's the only way that we can make 2021 a better year for all of us. Till next time, have a good evening and a fruitful week ahead.